So writing an email task, which is the second task of the TOEFL iBT writing section test. Let's check out what is actually write an email and then focus on how it is organized, what are the important things related to the write an email task, and the scoring criterias and how to answer. So first of all, the writing task is organized and it is the updated task which we have in 2026 version. Before 2026 version of the test, we didn't have the write an email task on the TOEFL writing section. Instead, there were other sections, other tasks related to testing our writing proficiency level. So in writing an email task, first of all, we have a short situation given to us. This situation could be a feedback to an essay, a feedback to a previously stated performance. It can be a problem to a specific solution, or it can be a problem that has occurred in campus or outside of campus, or it can be a team lunch, for example. So similar to these issues. The point is, first, the email introduces a specific situation, a specific scenario, and then it gives us 3 bullet points that we are supposed to cover in our response to the email. So here, a short situation is given, then there are 3 bullet points that we need to cover in our email response. The next thing is, here we don't have any specific limitation in how many words we need to type. The task says that we can type as many words as possible, but in complete sentences, okay? So we must type a complete email that includes a subject, the greeting, the paragraphs that it has, and the closing sentences that we might write at the end. So this is the overall structure of the email we have on the test. Now let's dive into a sample of the email that we can see on the screen. First of all, there is a scenario. There's a scenario. Then there are 3 bullet points that are given to us in order to cover in the response. Then there is the section which introduces who the email is sent to and what the subject of the email is. So let's dive into the situation. In the situation here, we have you recently moved to a new apartment and discovered several maintenance issues that were not mentioned in the lease. Lease is that contract. You want to contact your landlord, Mr. Hill, to report these problems and request repairs as soon as possible. This is the scenario or the situation given, and then it guides us to write an email to Mr. Hill, and in our email, we need to do the following bullet points. First of all, describe the maintenance issues you have noticed. It's the first thing we need to include in our email. Secondly, explain how they are affecting your daily life. Third, request that they be repaired soon. So these are the bullet points we need to include in our email response. And here it says that write as much as you can and in complete sentences. That's the focus of the wording. It means there is no word limitation that says you have or you are allowed to write this range of words. So it says that you can write as much as you can, but in complete sentences. Then there is the section referring to the response, who we write, and what the subject of the email is. This section is already given. on the test, we will not be supposed to write the recipient name. We're not supposed to write that one. And also, we're not supposed to write the subject. The subject of the email is already given. The recipient name is already given to us on this part of the screen. And the next part, which is our section to write, here, this space is given for typing our response. And on the test day, we'll only have 7 minutes to read and write. It means do all the possible activities to write an email in just 7 minutes. So it is a sample email that we may have on the test, similar to this one. The organization, the sections we face, the situation, the bullet points, the recipient and the subject, and the place where we need to write our response. Let's get into a sample response and then go to the sections. In the first part, so it is already given here, request for apartment maintenance repairs. So it's a model email response. Let's dive into the response, and then in the next slides, we'll focus on what parts or what essential sections does it have. Dear Mr. Hill, as you know, I moved into your apartment on Highwood Street last week. I'm writing to mention a few maintenance issues that I have noticed since then. First of all, the faucet in the bathroom sink has a steady leak that I cannot stop. I can hear this leak during the night and it is interrupting my sleep. I'm also worried about wasting water. Moreover, the doorbell on the front door does not work. This makes it difficult to receive packages from delivery drivers since they have no way of letting me know that they have arrived. So it's a problem. Would it be possible for you to arrange repairs for both of these issues right away? So it is the action requested. I'll be at home all week, so I can easily let you in, no matter when you arrive to take care of them. Thank you for your time. And then we have the name. So it is a sample email, and the previous slide, so we have had a sample prompt, the email prompt. Now let's dive into the other important parts. First of all, the task goal, what it really wants us to do, and how much time do we have to write. The goal for an email task on the TOEFL iBT test is to write a polite, goal-focused email. Look, it says polite. It means the tone we use to write our email is a significant part of it. Secondly, a goal-focused email. It means it should target the bullet points that are given. If we write out of the bullet points or add extra bold ideas, so it would not affect somehow our scores positively. So, goal-focused email that addresses every bullet point or every bullet in the prompt. How? Using clear structure. The structures we use, they should be clear. So the second point is clarity here. So one was politeness. Second is goal-focused. It should specifically focus on the bullet points that are given, and it should have a specific purpose. The third thing was the structure, which is part of clarity. So clear structure. Appropriate tone. It's the fourth important thing. And accurate grammar. So these are the main focus of this prompt. It checks our politeness in the email. It checks the purpose of the email. Is it answering or addressing all the bullet points in the prompt or not? It is checking the clarity in our email. It is checking the tone, the appropriate tone, which is whether formal or informal tone used in the email, and the accuracy in grammar, how accurately use the grammatical structure to convey your message. So this is the goal of the email. Now, the next thing is with the time. The time which is allotted for the email is 7 minutes. We have 7 minutes to write a complete email, and there's only one email task. It means on the real test, we will not have several emails to write after one another. There will be one write an email task on the writing section of the TOEFL iBT 2026. And the next thing is there's no fixed word limit. We can write as much as we want in complete sentences. So that's the part of the goal and the timing. Let's dive into the next part, which is the time management. The time management we have, and specifically, as we have discussed, the email asks us to respond to a scenario with 3 bullet points. Okay, and then we have to use specific criteria. The politeness, we have to consider that one. The goal, that should address all the bullet points, and the rest of the things we discussed. Now, in order to manage our time carefully, we have to focus on this one. We have a total of 7 minutes, and in order to manage, in the first 40 seconds, focus on reading and identifying the bullet points. Focus, just focus. Find out what it wants us, what is the scenario, and what are the bullet points needed to be answered. The next 5 to 6 minutes, we need to start writing. And the last 30 seconds, we need to proofread. So it is an overall timeline for managing the 7 minute appropriately. The first 40 seconds, read and identify the bullet points. 5 to 6 minutes, write your complete email, addressing all the 3 bullet points. And finally, focus on proofreading in the last 30 seconds. So it is the time management. We can go ahead with that one. The next point that is needed to be addressed is the common types of emails that we may face. So certainly in our daily lives, we may have different situations to write email. The common types that we may encounter during our daily communication through email would be any of them. It can be an apology. Often a student might write an email to apologize for a certain circumstance, for a certain error that has already been done. Or it can be a request. For example, the student might request the professor to send the materials, for example, or there would be an inquiry in other conditions. So this is overall what we have as the request or asking for something. It is one type of the email. We may have complaint. There would be an email saying a complaint or complaining about a certain thing, a certain issue, addressing a problem, telling about the problem. As we have had the sample email, it was a problem email because the person or the maintenance was a certain issue and the person wanted to be fixed. Next is follow-up email, information update email, and there could be coordination emails. So there are the common types of emails we may have and commonly face. So the next thing is with the task scoring criteria, how it is scored from 0 to 5 scale. The complete score is 5 and the least score is 0. So the first criteria that they check our response is addressing all bullet points given. It is the first thing they check. And our response, our score also depend on this one. To earn a top score, so we have to respond to every bullet point in the prompt. If any one of the bullet point is missed, it significantly affects your score. So if you skip one, your score drops, even if your writing is clear. It's really important. So one of the criteria that they score our response is the bullet points. We need to cover all those bullet points in our response. Second is the clear structure. Clear structure is the second criteria that our email will be scored based on. Your email must be easy to follow. If it is too complex and unintelligible, it doesn't get a high score, even though you might write really high and advanced structures with advanced vocabulary. If it is not intelligible, if it is not easy to follow and understand it clearly, it gets a lower score in structure. So clear or clarity is the second important part of the email response. So ideas should unfold in a logical order. It means they go step by step. They should follow a logical order, with each part of the email doing its job clearly. So we'll discuss the different parts of the email later right now. So the thing is clarity. Clarity is the second important part of the email. The third criteria which checks our response based on is polite tone. Polite tone is another important thing. If you have had the experience of writing an email to someone already, you may know that when we are writing an email, especially official emails, we need to be very polite and use respectful language and say certain words to show that professionality. So here the same thing happens. When we write the email, it should sound polite, respectful, and professional. If you want to go ahead with angry tone, or sometimes if we blame someone for doing something wrong, or some informal language we use during our daily communications. So in email, it is completely not allowed. We should avoid using any angry language, or it's called emotional language, to blame someone for something, to say it's just because of you, or this problem has occurred because of blah blah. So blaming, making angry emotional tone, or using casual and informal language, they are really decreasing our scores in the writing section. So this is the third important thing in scoring criteria. They will check it. The next is the grammar and logical flow. The grammar and logical flow is the last important criteria in writing an email. When we say accurate grammar, it simply refers to how accurately and without errors do we write sentence structures. It is part of grammar. Or in other words, the official guide rubric for the writing an email task says that you have to have syntactic variety. Syntactic variety simply refers to using grammatical structures from basic to advanced. You have to use a variety of sentence structures to convey your message in your email. If you only focus on one specific type of sentence, as an example, we will only use simple sentences or only compound sentences. So it is not, or it doesn't actually get a higher score. So the accurate grammar simply refers to using a variety of sentence structures to convey your message without errors, without mistakes. And beside, when we say logical flow, accurate grammar plus logical flow refers to how logically your main points and sentences are connected. In order to bring logical flow, we need to use the right transition words and the right word and phrases to connect ideas to each other. So again, it is related to the structural points we have and how we use our language to connect to each other and convey the message. So overall, accurate grammar and logical flow refers to that point. So basically, to summarize, the most important criteria that our scores will be based on are the bullet points we need to address. Second, the clarity, using clear structure to write the email, having the polite tone in our email. We should not use specific emotional language or impolite language to blame someone, to make someone, for example, angry, or using emotional words and phrases or impolite language. They're not allowed. So being polite in the email is the third criteria. And the final is the grammar and logical flow of ideas we write. So these are the important criteria that we may have. Now let's get into the framework of the email. The email framework, or the parts of an email. It simply will have 6 steps in writing an email, or 6 parts actually. The first one is the subject line. On the test, the subject line is already given. The subject line tells the reader what the email is about. That's the subject line, part of the subject line. On the test, it is given. So we don't need to write there. But if we communicate outside a test, we need to have the subject line. It tells us what the reader, what the email is. The second part is the greeting section of the email. The greeting section of the email. Saying, for example, dear Professor Ahmad, dear Professor Kaim, dear Ali, dear, for example, Dr. Samir, and so on. So we may have these greeting words. And in order to use the professional language for this one, we can use some of them and we'll discuss that. So the second part in email structure is greeting. The third section is the opening sentence declaring our purpose of writing the email. This is very important both on the test or when we are outside the test. This sentence exactly declares the reason we are writing the email. We can say, I'm writing to ask about. Then you will tell your reason for writing the email. Or possibly we can start our email by saying, I'm contacting you to follow up on. I'm contacting you to follow up on. Or you can start by saying, I'm writing in connection with. I'm writing regarding to. So these sentences, these possible sentences, are showing the reason we write the email. They're all the opening sentences. So we have the third section as the purpose sentence. The fourth section is the explanation section. In the explanation section, we will address the bullet points in separate and clear segments. We need to address the bullet points that the test gives us and then write and explain each one clearly. So, explanation is the fourth part of the email on the test. The fifth part is the closing sentence. So before going to the closing sentence, let me add something in the explanation part. In the explanation part, we can somehow at the same time that we are explaining under what situation the email is written or based on the prompt, we are supposed to show the action requested, what we want the reader to do. Okay, so we're addressing the bullet points and say what action will be requested. That's also part of the explanation section. So the next part is the closing sentence. In the closing sentence, we will write the appreciation plus a next step. As an example, these sentences could be possibly used. Thank you for your time. So it is an appreciation. And then what the next step is, or what we expect the reader to do. So please let me know if I can provide more information. It is the email. Or I'm looking forward to your response at your earliest convenience. So this is the closing sentence, sample closing sentences that we can write at the end of the email, and then we have the sign off section. If it is in paper, so we can have the signature, or online signatures are also possibly used in the sign off section. You can say best regards, and then you write your name. We can say sincerely yours or faithfully. These are the common words used in the sign off section. So to conclude, the email structure contains these 6 sections. First, subject line. Second, it's greeting. Third, we have the opening purpose sentence. The fourth step or first section is explanation with the action you request using the bullet points in the prompt. And the fifth is the closing section. The last one is the sign off section of the email. So this is the overall structure. Let's see what we should do in our email and what we should avoid. So the do's and don'ts of the email. Specifically, the subject lines that we have with the greetings. So with the subject lines, what we need to do. Actually, On the test, this part is already given, but when we are writing the email outside the test, or we are writing an email to a professor at university, we are writing an email to someone far away for coordination. So what we need to do in our subject line, we have to be clear and specific. For example, request for workshop details. It is clear and it specifically tells the topic. It is a request and what this request is for workshop details. It is a clear subject line. And keep it concise. It simply means the subject line should not be too long. If you write a complete sentence with, for example, 15 to 20 words, it is not still a subject line. It is not concise. So the subject line should remain very concise, between 3 to 6 words, not longer than. So the next is follow up on missing assignment, for example, or apology for missed appointment. So we have these ones. Now what we should not do in the subject line. In the subject line, we should not go ahead by saying hi, or question, or help. Well, these are not allowed. Emotional, urgent, please read. So it's not, hey, I have a problem. So it's not formal. And we should not write, for example, full sentence in the subject line. Subject lines are titles, not the messages. So we should avoid using any of these languages in the subject line of the email. Now, when we are on the greeting options, what we can use? For example, we may have the formal, we may have the semi-formal, and we need to avoid. A formal greeting may start by saying, Dear Professor, for example, Karim. Dear Dr. Hassan. Hello, Miss Fahima. They're formal. Formal greetings we may use commonly in our emails. With semi-formal, we may say, Hi, Ali. Hi, Ahmad. Or hello, Jamil. Hello, Miss Fahima. So, something this way. But in an email, we should avoid these by saying, hey, you, hey, you. So it's not the right language. If you say, for example, Dear Karim, it's very informal for a professor. For example, you're writing to a professor and say, Dear Karim, Dear Ahmad, Dear, and so on. So it is too informal, so we better avoid it. Or Dear Mr. Sarah, incorrect title. So can we say Mr. Sarah here? For example, for a woman, you use Mr. and then for a man, you say Miss. Oh, so that's completely wrong. And often, no greeting at all. It is also one of the things we need to avoid. Try to use the formal greetings and subject lines in your email. Try to have them. So the next thing is, as we have discussed, a strong greeting shows respect, awareness of your social conventions, and a tone control, which is very, very important in scoring our response on the TOEFL. So they're part of conventions. We'll later see the rubric, which is on the email task. So let's get into an example, which is 5 out of 5. So here we have the prompt is, or the subject is, rescheduling today's advising appointment. This is the subject. And who we write? Dear Professor Ellis. with very basic flow. I'm writing to sincerely apologize for missing my advising session this morning. I had a sudden personal emergency that required immediate attention, and I was unable to notify you beforehand. Could you please let me know which course planning documents I should review before our next meeting? I want to make sure I stay on track for the upcoming registration period. To prevent this from happening again, I've set up automatic reminders and will notify you in advance if any issue rises. Thank you for your understanding, and please let me know a convenient time to reschedule. Best regards. Then we have the name, Muhammad. So it has all the parts we discussed. Let's go ahead with all the parts we discussed. First of all, it was subject line. Does it have subject line? Yes, it is the subject line. Let's get into greeting. Does it have greeting? Yes. Is it formal or informal? It's formal. Then the first sentence to indicate the purpose of the email. Yes, we have. I'm writing to sincerely apologize for missing my advising session. It shows the purpose. Then this part is the explanation section here. It is the explanation section. We have the explanation section in this part. After the explanation, which is here with the action that is requested, we have the last sentence as saying, thank you for your understanding, and please let me know a convenient time to reschedule. And the last one, we have the sign off sections. This is an example that addresses all the bullet points. It is a polite and sincere tone it has, and it has an organized body as well. It has the 3 important characteristics of an email, which was addressing the bullet points. It uses polite and sincere tone. It uses the right structure to convey the message, and it is organized with a logical flow. So this is a 5 out of 5 scoring example. Another example similar to this, we have a request and an inquiry email. Request email. The previous one was an apology email. Now this is a sample of an inquiry or request email. Volunteer workshop. What's the subject? Questions about volunteer workshop. So we may have practice with it. Who can read it now?